everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be inspired by Dina Wakley, and it's all about being restrained. So for those of you who have followed my channel for a long while, you know I really struggle with white space, or just leaving some empty gaps on my page. I need to fill up all the page with colour and stuff. And so I went back recently, and Dina Wakley's published a book called Art Journaling with Courage, or Art Journal Courage, which if you haven't got a copy and you're interested in her style of artwork, it's a fabulous book to have. And she went through a page about being restrained. Now, when I went to the class with Dina, I did a class on being restrained too. Unfortunately, I didn't really internalize many of the tricks that she gave me. So in this page, I really tried to do as little as possible to this page. So I'm working in my large Dilutions journal, and I've just gessoed the page. You can see it's a bit patchy, and I used a scraper to put on the gesso. This isn't brilliant gesso, it's really plasticky, so things do bead up on it somewhat, which is a bit of a pain, but it works. To put a little bit of interest in the background, I thought I would put down some of the tissue papers. Now, I had this bright idea that by putting down some of the white tissues, which I really don't use very much, that maybe white on white, it might come up a little bit. But also when I applied some paints over the top, it might stain the tissue paper, and the white ink on it would act kind of like a bit of a resist. It didn't really work in the long run, but it gave me some texture on the page. So you can play around with that yourself and see what you wanted. You could probably put some printed papers on there just to get a bit of extra interest. However, for me, it was kind of a good way for me to keep that white space, because I had collaged on it. I'd put some tissue papers down, but because it was white, I really couldn't see where I'd put it. So it was kind of tricking my mind that I'd done more than it looked like I had. So I'm just drying off in between the layers just to make sure that what I want to do to the acrylic paint will work. And I'm starting off with some olive, and again using my little scraper to scrape it across the page in that sort of cross pattern, not going to the edges, and just putting some pattern and paint down on the page. I found the olive a little bit of a murky colour, so I wanted to brighten it up a little bit with the evergreen colour, which is that darker green that you can see there. And you can see it's a bit patchy, and that's okay. Now I'm going in with my wet wipe to wipe off the excess paint, and that's the reason why I did put the gesso down, because it makes doing this technique a lot easier. You can see on my next page I'm putting all my used up paints and cleaning my stencils on it, and I do that a lot when I'm working on single pages. I use the opposite page to clean everything off, or clean my brushes off, and it gives me a good page to do something on the next time. Now, because I know I'm layering stuff up, again, I'm making sure that each layer is dry before I reapply it. If you're applying acrylic paint on acrylic paint wet, they will blend together. If you're using similar colours, it's not too much of an issue. If you're using, for example, a blue and an orange together, you're going to start making muddy colours. So again, I'm just using my scraper just along the middle to brighten that up, and going back in with my wet wipe and wiping it off, again just to get a bit of that pattern and a bit of a different colour on the page. By wiping it off, I can see the pattern below. So this is working in an analogous colour range, the greens and the blues. So the colours that sit together on the colour wheel. And knowing your colour wheel and how colours work together is one of the ways that you can be really successful with your artwork, because it takes the guesswork out. Will this work with this? You can just grab colours you're pretty confident with. If you're not 100% sure, there are lots and lots of videos on colour theory out and about. On the Ranger website, Dina Wakley has done a printout that you can download to do with her colours, but basically you can apply it to all colours, because if you just substitute her names of her colours for reds and blues, it's going to work exactly the same. And it's a fairly small printout that's easy to work out, so you don't need to do much thinking about it. You can just have it in front of you and just pull it out where you need to. One of the things I've been playing with recently is going back and stenciling over things with some white. And it's a really subtle effect, but it just blends everything into the background a little bit and brings that little bit of restful space for the eye to sit on, brings that white space back in. Now, I've got a lot of that on this page, but just having that little bit of white through the middle ties it all together and gives your eye a path from that top right hand corner through down to the bottom right hand corner. So it gives it a through path. So again, I'm just going in and drying off, as I was saying before I got completely off track. If you mix your colours, you're going to come up with mud. By drying off the layers, it means you can wipe things away and they're not going to mix up. So for this page, I'm just drawing out 3 really simple leaf shapes. I'm using my Steel Bill or oil pencil, and you can see the really, really scratchy lines. I've found when I'm sketching stuff out, the more lines I put in, the more deliberate it looks. If I'd just drawn that with one line that had been a little bit wonky, it would have looked really odd. So be sketchy with your lines. You'll actually be surprised how much better it looks. I'm just going in with the excess white as well and painting in the background, and you can see by touching Stabilo All pencil, it is a water reactive pencil, so it's picking up some of that and blending it in, so you get this beautiful shadow happening along the edges where you're working. It also blocks out the area from the background, which is really important too. So again, you're making the image a little bit less busy and you're putting the focus on those leaves square at the front of your image. So now I'm just going in with a contrasting colour, and I'm using fuchsia to do this. So again, going back to sort of that colour theory, we're talking about analogous colours, which are colours that sit next to each other in the colour wheel, and this is a complementary colour because it sits opposite on the colour wheel, so it stands out from the background. And it's a really great way to make an image pop on your page by using a complementary colour, because it really does stand out from the background. Again, just going back in and heating up my ink just to make sure, or my paint, just to make sure it's dry. And this video, this page to do was a really quick page. It only took about half an hour, so you'll notice my hand isn't quite as fast as it usually is. This is only sort of sped up twice as fast, so it's nearly real time. I'm trying hard to try and get it close to real time. Just blending in a little bit more white because it got a little bit muddy at the edges, and just to put some brightness back on the page. So after that, I'm just going back in with my Stabilo Oil pencil, and you'll notice the lines are a lot darker. Now the reason for this is the Stabilo Oil pencil, it's not a wax pencil, but it has a waxy nature to it. And going onto the hot paper where I just heated, it causes it to put the line down a lot thicker and darker than it has before. So just be aware, if you still wanted a really light line, let your paper cool down first. But I really like that contrast in colour. I've got some of those lighter lines in the background, and then I've got some darker lines. So now I'm just going in with my black drawing ink, and I'm just using the inside of a washi roll because I actually finished one, surprise surprise, and I'm just making some really simple circles in the background. The washi roll holders are quite good because they're fairly sturdy, and you can see there I've sort of splitted and splattered because I can't leave white for too long. I just use a fan brush to just sprinkle on some extra black over the page, but I tried to be as restrained as possible. And then I'm just cleaning it up because, knowing me, I'm really handy at putting my fists straight into that and being dyed black for the next week. Finally, I'm just going in and drying that ink off again. It is acrylic drawing ink, so it does dry fairly quickly. If you find you've got a really big puddle of it, you can always put a piece of paper towel there and blot off the excess, but it doesn't take too long to dry. So this is pretty much my finished page. I didn't do much more to it, and I was having a huge debate as I was looking at it going, oh, it needs something. Should I put some words on it? Should I do something else? As you do when you're me. So you can see me here blotting off any excess, just so I know that it is completely dry. So for me, the internal struggle of talking myself out of doing stuff is really, really hard. You can sort of see me here, and I'm starting to go in. I did decide to put on some scribbly journaling, and my journaling was about how I was having this internal debate of whether to add more to the page. I'm glad I put the journaling on, because I think sort of that really fine loopy line over those leaves adds a little bit of pattern and texture to it. I was going to then put some journaling across. You can sort of see my hand practicing where I might go. I think in the end I decided not to do that, but you can see. Oh no, I did do it. There you go. Because I just couldn't help myself. Hey. Oh dear. You see what I mean? I wish I could just leave things the way they are, but I actually quite like having that scribbly journaling there. This is what I was going to do. I was going to add chipboard shape, I think. A chipboard quote, one of the Tim Holtz chipboard quotes to it, which sits up in my top left-hand corner off screen, which you can't see. So I'm going through, and I was trying to find field notes. And so I peeled them off, ready to go, but I decided that it just didn't look right. That was very blocky compared to everything else. It was fairly organic on the page. So I did hold off on that, which I'm glad about. So here coming up is a close-up of the final page. And you can see those layers in the background and the journaling over the top. The journaling was done with a food ball pen, and it is quite a white broad pen, so it goes on and will dry permanent in the end, which is a bonus. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye for now.